Good afternoon, everyone. From the very beginning of this Congress, Democrats have repeatedly made clear that we will find bipartisan common ground with our Republican colleagues on any issue, whenever and wherever possible, in order to take care of the business of the American people and make life better for everyday Americans. We've repeatedly done it from the beginning of this Congress, and we're prepared to do it once again in order to make sure that the final six appropriations bills are passed in the House, sent over to the Senate, and on a path to be signed into law by President Joe Biden. Under no circumstances can we tolerate a government shutdown, which will hurt the American people. We have a responsibility to make sure that the government is funded, and the six appropriations bills do so in a way that takes care of the health, the safety, the education, and the economic well-being of the American people. And I look forward to the bills being brought to the floor for passage tomorrow. Questions?
You said the Democrats were ready, willing, and able to help pass this government funding bill. Do you have a sense of how many Democrats are able to support this? Could it be over 200?
A substantial majority.
Can I ask you about the idea of loaning people Ukraine money for their aid package? I know you prefer the supplemental, but doesn't this seem like it could be a path that could actually work?
I don't prefer the supplemental. The only viable path forward is for House Republicans to take the national security bipartisan and comprehensive bill that was sent over by the Senate weeks ago and put it on the House floor for an up or down vote so we can provide the security assistance necessary to our democratic allies in Israel, Ukraine, and in the Indo-Pacific, and at the same time meet the needs of Palestinian civilians who are in harm's way in Gaza through no fault of their own, and surge humanitarian assistance into the region and to other theaters of war across the world. We are past the 11th hour at this point in time. And House Republicans need to stop bending the knee to the pro-Putin faction that is growing and ascendant in their party and do the right thing in terms of the national security needs of the American people. The Senate bill is bipartisan, it's comprehensive, and it's the only viable way forward.
Do you support Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressing Congress? And do you have any concerns with the reporting that Leader Schumer rejected an opportunity to speak to the Democratic caucus?
I have not been formally approached with respect to the Prime Minister speaking to the House of Representatives or a joint session of Congress. And until that formal approach takes place, I don't have any comment.
There's a lot of different niche policy riders in some of these appropriations bills. One of them talks about prohibiting the Biden administration from banning gas stoves, for example. What kind of are Democrats' reaction to those, and why do you think Republicans continue to kind of just push those into the bill?
As far as I could tell, the overwhelming majority of right-wing policy riders have been rejected and are not part of the spending agreement, including in critical areas like extreme MAGA Republican efforts to undermine reproductive freedom, destroy diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, bully the transgender community, or detonate the progress that we made in the last Congress connected to combating the climate crisis. Every single one of the policy right-wing changes sought by extreme MAGA Republicans in those critical areas are gone, nowhere to be found, and that's a victory for the American people.
Are you surprised by the way the speaker has decided to invite Mr. Netanyahu to come and speak, since a joint address would normally require the sign off of all leaders?
Speaker Mike Johnson has not raised this issue with me, so there's nothing really to talk about until we actually have a formal conversation about his intentions.
Has he had any conversations with you about the supplemental? He had sort of made gestures towards funding that needed to come and move from where he's been previously. Have you all had any conversations about that?
We continue to make the case, including to Speaker Johnson, that the national security challenges need to be addressed with urgency. And we shouldn't really be leaving town tomorrow without addressing the needs of our Democratic allies, particularly as it relates to Ukraine. Because there's a possibility that we could return in 2.5 weeks and the situation in Ukraine has dramatically changed, and all of the progress that the Ukrainian people bravely have made in pushing back against Russian aggression has been lost. Why have House Republicans and large parts of the Republican Party become so pro-Putin? Because that's not the pro-American position. That's not the America first position to allow Ukraine to fall. That's the Putin first position. And it's a shame that so many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle refuse to recognize the urgent need in terms of the safety and security of the American people and the free world in continuing to stand by the Ukrainian people.
If I can follow up on that, though, there are some Republicans in the House who are pro-funding Ukraine. And there's a discharge petition, and I was wrong this morning, 185 people have signed off on the discharge petition that would move the bill that the Senate passed. Are there any overtures to those Republicans, as well as some of the New York Democrats, who haven't signed that? If this is urgent and it needs to get done before you leave, and as to your point, 2 weeks from now could change markedly, there's a pressure point right there.
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of House Democrats have signed the discharge petition, and there are really only a handful of Republicans who need to step forward and join us, and we could end this issue right now. Less than 20% of the House Republican conference at this point in time is necessary to join House Democrats, sign the discharge petition, and we can provide our Democratic allies in Ukraine and throughout the world with the assistance that they need to continue to defend democracy, freedom, and truth. Less than 20% of the House Republican conference. And so the question is, are the others all pro-Putin? We only need less than 20%. So even if everyone else is lost, and I don't believe that that is the case, that everyone has decided to follow on the other side of the aisle Donald Trump's pro-Putin position, or Tucker Carlson's pro-Putin position, or Jim Jordan's pro-Putin position, or Marjorie Taylor Greene's pro-Putin position. I know that's not the case with every single House Republican. And so either Speaker Johnson puts the bipartisan Senate bill on the House floor tomorrow, or we're going to have to explore all available opportunities immediately upon our return in April.
The light is finally at the end of the tunnel for FY24 appropriations. Obviously been a chaotic and long 5.5 months. Can you talk about how it feels to finally be at the end of this process that's really caused a lot of dysfunction in Congress and a key focus?
I'm personally very thankful for the leadership of Rosa DeLauro, who is our top appropriator on the Democratic side, as well as all of the members of the Appropriations Committee who've been involved in negotiating the spending bills over the last several months. And they've done it in a thorough and a thoughtful and a forward-looking way that meets the needs of the American people under circumstances where we, of course, are constrained by divided government. It's a win for the American people that we are on the verge of avoiding a harmful government shutdown and meeting the needs of the American people in a way um, that lifts up their health, their safety, their education, and their economic well-being. Kevin? I appreciate the creative way in which you've endeavored to ask that question, but I'm going to give you the same answer that I've given as it relates to anything in this space. That what's in front of us right now is to make sure that Israel is able to decisively defeat Hamas, which is a brutal terrorist organization, and that is necessary to be done for the good of the Israeli people, the Palestinian people, the region, the free world, and for a just and lasting peace. At the same time, we need to do everything possible to decisively get the hostages out and decisively surge humanitarian assistance, food, and water into Gaza so we can alleviate the conditions that innocent Palestinian civilians are confronting as a result of being in the theater of war. Last question?
So there was data released by the nonpartisan TRAC that says approximately 200,000 deportation cases were thrown out because DHS did not file the necessary paperwork in time. Is that a concern at all, and should that be addressed here?
Yeah, I can't comment as to whether it's a concern or not because I haven't seen that particular report. The Biden administration is working hard under the circumstances that they confront and the limitation of resources that have been placed upon them to make sure that we have a secure, a strong, and a humane border. As Democrats, we've made clear repeatedly that we believe that we've got a broken immigration system and we've got serious challenges at the border that need to be addressed in a serious, common sense, and bipartisan manner, which unfortunately is not the approach that the extreme MAGA Republicans have taken because at the direction of Donald Trump, the Republicans would rather weaponize the border issue politically in November as opposed to working with Democrats in a bipartisan, common sense way to solve it right now. And in this country, in this Congress, we need less chaos and more common sense. Unfortunately, this do-nothing Republican Congress has far too often specialized in chaos, dysfunction, and extremism, not problem solving. But we are ready, willing, and able to work on this issue in a serious fashion. We just need traditional Republicans to join us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Who's winning your bracket?
I'm all Big East all the time, so, but I didn't fill one out.
What?